What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This time we're going to be at the American Grand Prix in COTA. Last time out we were in the Japanese Grand Prix, and after having a pretty strong qualifying, we started P3 and fell down the order to P4, which wasn't the end of the world. It was a shame not to finish on the podium, but Sergio Perez, who started behind us, had just had a bit more pace than we did. But we managed to hold off the charging pack behind for the whole race without too many major hiccups. So yeah, we ended up getting a P4 finish there. Could be absolutely critical in our battle with Alpine for P5 in the championship. We got 4 races to go: USA, Mexico, Portugal and Brazil. And we're going to need a strong performance in all of those if we want any chance of getting a P5 in the Constructors. Especially since Fittipaldi is still struggling to break into the points at all. He did it on one occasion. He probably would have done it in Japan had it not been for a mechanical failure that he suffered during that race. But there isn't much we can do about that. He's currently worth 5 million. I was just checking his market value. That will probably go up, I think, to 6 million before the start of next season. So it will cost 6 million to re-sign him. I think that might be a tad too much, honestly. He's been good, but he's not been 6 million good in my opinion. And maybe when I have the facilities to accommodate him again, it might be different. But honestly, I think I might get another young driver in next season. I really have liked having Fittipaldi as a teammate. He's been my favourite teammate of the ones I've had. Even though he also was the one who did the only thing that has frustrated me that a teammate's done by blocking me in that one Australian qualifying a very long time ago now. You saw I dropped the difficulty by 1 point there. That was because I lost the rivalry with Perez before. I forgot to drop it. I even will go to double check whether the number adds up, and I started on 90. You subtract 9 from that for the number I've lost, that's 81, and then add 1 back for the one that I won, and that's 82. So that's why the rivalry... that's why the difficulty is what it is, because every rivalry I lose, I drop the difficulty by a point. Every rivalry I win, I up it by 1 point. So if we win the current one that we're in, which is with Lewis Hamilton, we will up the difficulty to 83, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, the game keeps giving me really difficult rivals, so there isn't much I can do against them, unfortunately. And if today's practice is anything to go by, we're in for an exceptional weekend of Formula One. We do some wet weather running in practice. We didn't do any inters running, so it's not surprising that we were quite far down the order. The pace will be a bit anomalous as a result of this, because we can't really read whether we're going to be fast or slow in the dry, which is what qualifying in the race is going to be like. So it's going to be a bit difficult to really gauge how fast we're going to be over the course of the rest of the race weekend, the course of the sessions that actually matter. But you know, I think we have the potential to do quite well here. Last year we were actually running in the podium positions, if I remember correctly, before the car gave up about 3 or 4 laps before the end. So I'm hoping that we can have a result becoming of the sort of pace that we were showcasing last year. We may have to take a penalty because the gearbox is slightly beyond the point that I think it would last. You can see down there it's orange, and I meant to change it before qualifying, but I forgot. So now I'm presented with the option of I can either try and get the gearbox to the end of the Grand Prix, or I can change it beforehand and take a back of the grid penalty, and that's what I've ended up doing. If there's any track in the ones coming up that I think I can take a penalty at, start from the back of the grid and still come through to get a decent result, it's COTA. Brazil's not particularly easy to overtake. I know obviously Hamilton pulled off 25 overtakes in one weekend once upon a time, but typically Brazil is not the easiest to overtake at. Portugal I don't really know, and Mexico is very easy to get locked in a DRS train. So if I wanted any race where I was starting from the back of the grid, it would be this one, because I think there's quite a few places that I can overtake here. There's the pit straight, there's the back straight, and there's also a few sort of places that you can brake slightly later than people, like the run down to the back straight. And those are places that you can easily overtake at. So as a result of knowing that I've got this back of the grid penalty, I only did one run in Q2. It was good enough for a 1:32.7. If it's good enough to get me through to Q3, so be it, but it wasn't. So that's fine. I honestly don't know if we would have got through anyway. That was on a fresh set of tyres that I did that 1:32.7. Was there another 4/10ths in the car that I could have improved to get into Q3? I have no idea. I'll never know. But yeah, that means that we've qualified P11, but it doesn't matter at all because we took the back of the grid penalty to replace the gearbox. I think the rest of our engine components, I've had a survey of all of them. I think they should last until the end of the season. We're actually still on our first control electronics component, 19 races into the season, and it's only at like 35%. It's not very worn at all. So yeah, we honestly could probably run that CE to the end of the season. I probably won't, just in case. I might change it up next race or something, just for the final couple of races. But the option would definitely be there if that's what I wanted to do. So it wasn't a bad qualifying overall. We performed basically within what the pace of the car actually is compared to the top 5 teams. But it's still a tiny bit frustrating that we couldn't get the car into Q3. But you know, with the back of the grid penalty, it's not the end of the world. And now it's time for us to get into the race.
Welcome once again then to the United States Grand Prix here in the magnificent city of Austin. It was here in 2018 that Kimi Räikkönen delighted the world by taking the top step of the podium for the first time in 114 races. There's always a record to be broken, so what, I wonder, is in store for us here today? We have 10 turns to the left and 10 turns to the right here at the fantastic Circuit of the Americas. Overtaking opportunities into turn 1 and turn 12 at this anti-clockwise track. It's 3.6 miles long, and we should see average lap speeds of around 126 miles per hour. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Sainz, Sergio Perez, and Russell, Fernando Alonso, Ricciardo, Ocon, and Pierre Gasly, Lundgaard, Schwartzman, Enzo Fittipaldi. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Magnussen, Albon, Hamilton, Mick Schumacher, and Nicholas Latifi, Stroll, Tsunoda, Joe, and Robinson. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. And joining me again for the race today, Natalie Pinkham. Let's talk about Robinson. That was a solid result in the last race. Can they keep that momentum going this weekend?
It's always nice to come into a Grand Prix weekend on a high, but your expectations are based much more on your practice and qualifying runs. So it's the momentum from those sessions that they'll be hoping to carry into the race today.
So nothing, no comments from Mark here. Even he knows that we can't win the championship anymore, so he's not going to suggest something like that anymore. Everyone around us is starting on mediums. There's only 4 cars in the race starting on the softs. So yeah, I'm not too concerned about the tyre strategy we're on. We're really just aiming to get into the points here. I think that's the goal. If we can get sort of P8, P9, that would be fantastic. Not Schumacher. Hamilton has a penalty as well, so he started quite far down the order, and potentially we could finish ahead of him if we can get a good start. And yeah, Fittipaldi actually got a penalty too, but he only dropped 1 place down the order in the end. I guess because a few cars in front of him took penalties as well, like myself and Hamilton. So it didn't affect his grid position basically whatsoever. We line up on the grid and the lights come on immediately. And the lights go out, and it's a pretty good start from us, as to be expected. We've started at the back of the grid, we've basically jumped Schumacher already. It's not Schumacher though, it's Guan Yu Zhou. But anyway, we jump Zhou, and we jump Stroll, and we jump Tsunoda as we come into the first corner, and I think we're going to attack Latifi and Schumacher here as well. And yeah, as we come around the first corner, we're already up into P17. We're being attacked back by Latifi. We actually have to go off the track in order to keep our foot in it. And perhaps we should have conceded the place there, but I'm just going to try and hold on to what we've got for now. And yeah, now as we move on, you'll see Albon and Hamilton dueling up in front. Hamilton only made up one position so far, but he's going to be eager to get ahead of my teammate Enzo Fittipaldi, and also Kevin Magnussen, who is just ahead of him. He's going up the inside here. He's made up a few positions. I think he's even going to get ahead of Lundgaard there as we go around the outside of Albon and Fittipaldi as well. But Fittipaldi is actually going to fight us back. He's saying, just because I'm the number 2 driver on the team, you've started behind me on this occasion. That means I have every right to fight you, and I don't blame him. But we are going to try and get ahead of him sooner rather than later, as someone's front wing went flying there. I'm not sure who that was, but there was a front wing that definitely took a beating as we came down into the heavy braking zone at the end of the back straight. You got Gasly, Lundgaard, Hamilton, Magnussen in ahead of us, and we got a bit wide through that corner, and that allows Fittipaldi back through as well. And now we're going to switch to the replay camera, and we'll have a look at what is happening here. And you see these last few corners. I'm going to try and get ahead of Fittipaldi, try and go up his inside. We'll see if we can make it work or not. He definitely gives us the room, but we just don't have the pace. And now we're under pressure from Mick Schumacher here, actually. Once again, he looks like he might have the pace to challenge us into turn 1, potentially. He's going to have to go around the outside as I defend to the inside. I'm still thinking about attacking Enzo Fittipaldi in this moment, and that allows Schumacher through around the outside because I take a very, very tight line into turn 1. And now we are down on Mick Schumacher as well as Enzo Fittipaldi, and we're desperately losing touch to the cars ahead, and we need to clear this train of cars as quickly as we possibly can. It's a good start, immediately get ahead of Schumacher, but we need to make up as many of these positions as we can, preferably within the next few laps or so. I do not want to get stuck behind all of these cars. That is going to really damage our chances of scoring points in this race. I think Pierre Gasly had come into the pits. I don't know if you saw that or not, but he was the person who got the damage at the end of the back straight in the end. So yeah, he's come into the pits. That's one of the 4 soft compound runners kind of eliminated from this race, which means that we won't really know whether the strategy was right or not in the end. I guess we'll have to wait and see whether the likes of Sainz and Ricciardo and I think Leclerc are the 3 that are on that strategy. So yeah, I'm not sure whether they'll have that strategy pay off for them or not. We get ahead of Fittipaldi eventually, and now we're pressuring Lundgaard ahead of us. We need to close him down and get ahead of him as quickly as we possibly can, because he is a very fast customer in that Alfa Romeo. I don't quite know where the Alfa Romeo excels in terms of its performance. I think it was pretty good in the aero department, but I think we were slightly better. So I'm assuming they must have a better chassis and whatnot than we do. We try and go up the inside at turn 1. We almost go into the back of Magnussen there, and I mean Lundgaard didn't care. He was having that place back one way or another, doing the switchback on us and then forcing us off the track. So yeah, maybe a bit inappropriate from him, as Charles Leclerc is out of the session. Oh my goodness, Charles Leclerc is out of the session. He needed to win this race to be in with a chance of staying in the championship. I think Norris could close out the championship here now. Let's have a look at what happened to him. I think he just loses power. I think that, yeah, the engine just goes. I don't see any smoke, but I'm assuming it was engine related because it sounded like he just lost power to the car or something like that. That's crazy. I think all Norris needs to do now is finish the race and he'll be crowned world champion here and now. That has major ramifications for the championship. Charles Leclerc has been so unlucky with his reliability these past few races that it's allowed Norris to walk away with the championship. And I mean, that is gutting not only for Leclerc but also for Ferrari. We've got ahead of Lundgaard now. Yeah, it's also gutting for Ferrari, who have fallen behind McLaren, or at least close to falling behind McLaren. I think they're only sort of 12 points ahead of them or so. So if McLaren can get a good result here, they could definitely jump Ferrari in the constructors standings, and then Ferrari could be on for nothing. They were looking pretty at one point for the constructors championship by a mile over McLaren, and McLaren have massively closed up that gap to the point that I actually think they could be walking away with the lead in the constructors championship after today. and Ferrari are going to need a good result in the next few races if they want to close that gap. Speaking of closing the gap, we're trying to close the gap to Magnussen now. We'll see if we can get ahead of him as quickly as possible and start setting after Robert Schwartzman to get into that final points paying position as it now is, now that Leclerc is out of the race. That is a major turn up for the books. That is a real disappointment that we couldn't see this championship go down to the wire. There were really only 2 protagonists in the whole championship. I kind of was a side character at the beginning who just couldn't keep up with the 2 front runners. Alonso had a brief stint where he was challenging with the front pack as well for a few races, but really this whole season it's only been Norris and Leclerc, and this is a terrible way for it to end. We try and go around the outside of Magnussen there, we switch it to the inside, and I think we've got the move done. He might attack us back here, but I think we've got it done, and we're up into P11 now, and we can set our sights on Schwartzman ahead. Wow, this is turning into quite the race. We move on to lap 6 now, and you see that the first of the soft compound runners are already into the pits, Sainz and Ricciardo. On lap 6, I can only assume they're on a 2-stop. If they're on a 1-stop, that is insane. There's no way these medium tyres are doing 22 laps. I feel like they have to be 2-stopping, which means that as long as we keep them ahead keep them behind before we pit, that's 2 free positions we've got. We're going to try to go around the outside of Robert Schwartzman as we go on to lap 10, but he defends it quite aggressively, so we switch back to the inside. We do exactly what his teammate Christian Lundgaard did to us 5 laps ago, and we make it up into P10. And Verstappen is actually quite close behind us now. I think he's pitted as well. He might have been the other soft compound runner, I'm not sure, but he might be doing soft medium by the looks of things, because I think he stopped a bit later than the other guys did. So yeah, I think Verstappen will be going to the end here. He's going to try and challenge us down as we come into this long back straight, and he's got ahead even before the DRS zone. He's going to have the DRS here as well because he was behind before we got to the straight. So he's gonna walk away, and there's pretty much nothing we can do about that. That's okay though. I'm not too concerned. Our fight was never with him. He's a podium contender in this race. I think feasibly the best position that we could be looking for here is sort of maybe P6 or so. We could definitely get ahead of Hamilton here, and maybe we could catch up with those Alpines that are just a bit further ahead of Hamilton. We come into the pits now on lap 13, and we're going to be pitting for a set of hard compound tyres to the end. We're doing sort of equal stints again because the hard compound tyres are mostly going on the car just for the simple fact that they are required. You know, you have to change off the mediums at some point in the race, and that's exactly what we're doing. We didn't have enough faith in the idea of doing a soft medium, so we're doing medium hard in this race, and that means that we probably will be a bit slower than some of the other cars on different stints, but that's okay. Here's Sergio Perez. He's also out of the race, and that is 2 front-running contenders eliminated from the United States Grand Prix, and that is a huge blow to Red Bull, who have been finding a bit more form in these recent races. You know, Perez got second in Japan. I think Verstappen's been on the podium a bunch of times recently, so yeah, they're definitely coming back into this Constructors' Championship, potentially as a P3 contender. I don't think they'll catch Ferrari or McLaren at this point, but someone who might catch the cars in front of them is me, as we're now closing down Hamilton quite significantly, and we're actually catching up to Alonso as well. But we need to be cognizant of Sainz, who is on medium compound tyres. He's stopped again in this race, as I predicted he would, and is now starting to close us down from behind. So we need to be careful that we don't concede the position to him. We could be on for a good haul of points here, P7, and if we can get ahead of Hamilton and Alonso, we could even be moving up into sort of P6, P5, get that extra sponsor bonus. Lap 25, we've closed the gap to Hamilton to about a second or so. The gap to Alonso is still about 3 seconds, so we're going to need to make this move very quickly on Hamilton if we want to look at getting P5, maybe even P4, because Ocon is very close in front of him there. So we could maybe make the move on the both of them. It seems like we have at least a bit more pace at the moment than the cars ahead of us do. Maybe not the front running 3 of Norris, Russell, and Verstappen. I assume it must be, given that Leclerc and Perez are out of the race, and we know that Sainz is behind us. I assume it's Norris, Russell, and Verstappen. So I don't think we're gonna be in with a chance of catching them. They seem just a bit too far ahead. But I definitely think that if we can go quickly, we can get ahead of these guys. But at lap 27, I still haven't made it past Hamilton. I've got the DRS now as we're on the back straight, and we're going to try and dive up the inside of him here. And we do exactly that. It wasn't too difficult to move. We were alongside him a long time before the corner, so we were able to make the move happen. And that is P6 in this race for the taking, and we get ahead of our rival as well, so I can't complain about that too much. I think the Alpines might just be a tad too far ahead of us in order for us to catch them before the end of the race. I think if I'd had a lap or two more, I might have been able to catch them. You see, as we round onto the final sector now on the final lap, we're about a second and a half down on them. I definitely think 1 or 2 more laps would have been enough to get them, but you know, you don't decide when the race ends, it just ends. Norris won the race, and I'm sure a win has to be enough for him to win the championship, right? There's only 86 points up for grabs, and he was, I think, 70 something ahead of Leclerc before this race, so he'll move to about 80 or 90ish ahead of Leclerc by the end of this Grand Prix. There's a yellow flag there. I'm not sure what that was for, but it seems like everyone crossed the line without too much issue, and we crossed the line P6, and we get driver of the day as well. So that's it's pretty nice to see. We did make it all the way up from P22, so maybe it's to be expected, and that was a pretty solid result.
Not just victory today then, but the championship as well. What a spectacular season they've had. Congratulations to the whole team. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out of the track was. Speed. It sounds like an awfully reductive statement, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
Our winning drivers are on their way to the podium right now. It's been a fantastic race for McLaren, that's for sure. And no doubt, they'll be celebrating tonight.
Lando Norris, World Drivers' Champion. Maybe we'll be saying that in real life in a few years' time. This guy is seriously fast. I think he's honestly one of the biggest talents that Formula 1 has had in a very long time. He's just not had the machinery. But as soon as he gets the machinery, like he has in this 2024 season of F1, in the game, he dominated this championship, really. You know, it was close between him and Leclerc, but at the end of the day, there's still 3 races to go, and he's already the World Drivers' Champion. So that's an incredibly solid result from him, and yeah, just really, really impressive all around. I think, you know, he could be defending that championship next year. He's going to give us a really hard time if our car's up to snuff.
Natalie Pinkham, come on, who do you pick?
I have to give it to Robinson. That was a commanding performance today. Very impressive indeed.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. McLaren supplant the previous leaders and take control of the championship. Well, what an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
So, McLaren have taken the lead in the Constructors' Championship, and not only that, Alpine are only 9 points behind us now. So, we are going to need a strong result at these next 3 races if we want to keep them behind. You know, we got Mexico, which typically does go pretty well for me. Obviously, I got my first ever points there in Season 1. And Season 2, I remember getting a pretty decent result there as well. I can't remember what the exact position was, but I remember being pretty satisfied with it. Then we've got Portugal, which obviously didn't go too well last year, but I think this year might potentially go a little bit better as long as I can finish the Grand Prix, which we've had a lot better reliability this season. This was race number 19, and we've only had 2 DNFs so far, so I think the reliability of the car is finally starting to improve a little bit over the past few seasons. And then finally we've got Brazil, which is a race where I have won. I was definitely going to score points there in Season 1 had it not been for the mechanical failure that I suffered while I was there. So I'm pretty optimistic, I think, about our chances of holding on to P5 this time around. I think I will need to win one of these races, or at least get on the podium. but you know, I'm going to be pushing flat out. I'm going to be trying and getting some of these facility upgrades on the car, or on the facilities, I guess. I don't really know what I was trying to say there. I'll try and get some of the chassis facility upgrades in sooner, now that I know that I probably won't be keeping Fittipaldi around for next season. Let me know who you think I should sign. Another F2 driver. Even Piastri is a valid option because he hasn't had a contract this year. The only options of F2 drivers at the start that I won't be signing are Schwartzman, Lundgaard, and Fittipaldi, because they all have been they've all been around already. I would happily sign Piastri again if he wants to. I think he has the potential to be very fast, but I don't think I would want to. I don't think I would want to sign Fittipaldi again, just because I feel like he's growing to be a little bit too expensive for what we're able to afford while simultaneously developing the car. You know, we have to think economically about this. We don't get that much money because of the way the career mode's set up. We've got all our sliders on reduced, and all the AI sliders are on improved. So we are getting way less than these guys. We need to make the right financial decisions. That's by far the most important thing in this series. So we need to do the right thing. I didn't notice during the race, but my front wing took an absolute beating from driving into the back of a couple of cars over the course of the race. So yeah, we were fortunate not to get any pace-changing damage there. We do outperform Hamilton in the rivalry so far, and we'll see if we can keep this going for the following weekends. Enzo Fittipaldi, like I said, is getting pretty close to driver acclaim level 13 now, so I think he will be 6 million by the end of the season. And if he is, then I think I'm going to sign one of the stronger drivers that still aren't with a contract. Someone like Porsche, Piastri, Lawson, someone like that. Let me know in the comments who you want me to sign, and maybe if there's an overwhelming favourite, that'll be who I sign. But for now, that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe. The support has been overwhelming. It's been amazing to see. And hopefully I will see you in the next one.